YouTube on the community, George Harrison fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens. We're here today to talk about the soundtrack, if you want to call it that, but George Harrison, Early Takes Volume 1, a compendium to the Living in the Material World Martin Scorsese documentary from 2011. A fascinating document into George's life and his creative process. And this record originally came out with like the deluxe bonus released, physical version of it. And eventually this came out in May of 2012 as a standalone. And to this day, I think this might be my favorite George Harrison album. Put together by Giles Martin and Paul Hicks with the help of Olivia and Danny, this record is mostly All Things Must Pass era stuff with about 4 tracks not from those sessions that features Ringo and Klaus playing with George and a handful of these tracks on versions that just predated slightly the formal start date of the sessions for what became All Things Must Pass. Hearing them on these early versions of these songs is game-changingly cool. And my biggest takeaway from this entire record is that for as much as I love George's released studio work and any popular artist released studio work, hearing the demo process for me, it's so interesting because you get to hear the songs as they're fresh and new and they hadn't been rehearsed 12 or 13 or sometimes 20 or 30 times. You hear them just as they're coming out of the artist's head with all the good intentions of creating something really cool that you hope people will dig. And it's also just from the heart. So with that, this first version of My Sweet Lord is wonderful. It's almost like a ragged kind of feel with Ringo's shuffly drums and Klaus doing his bass and the real steady acoustic guitar in this thing. But George's solo voice just shines on this thing, and you almost get the impression that they know they're onto something magical here. They know there's a good song. They're just laying down the groundwork for what it's going to become. But hearing that groundwork is insane. They could have put this out just as it is and it would have been equally as impressive, but maybe it's one of those things you appreciate the demo more because you know what the finished product is. Run of the Mill follows that up, and this might be one of my favorites on the entire album. It's just perfect as it is. He could have put this on the finished All Things Must Pass, and it would have been a perfect take of this song. He is so vocally confident. His playing is impassioned and heartfelt. He's so in the zone with this song. It's like he knew that he had all these songs baking up for the last 3 or 4 years before the Beatles split, and he knew that he had some great stuff and really wanted to show the world. And this is one of those moments where just the demo alone is so powerful. It's amazing it even got past this process. It could have just stayed here, and we would have loved it just as much as we loved the released version. This early version of I'd Have You Anytime is fairly close to what the released version became. It's got the basic ideas down of where the riffs would go to fill in some of the gaps. George's vocals are still kind of figuring out where he wants to land once in a while. But compared to the released version, this one's a little bit more chill. It doesn't jump up as heavily as the released version's chorus does. This kind of just stays in its pocket. It stays in its lane the whole time here, but the spirit of the song is on full display. And the magic is there for as early of a version as this is. Up next, we jump well into the 80s for a Dylan cover with Mama, You've Been On My Mind. And album highlight, absolutely an album highlight for sure. George's voice is so sensitive and gentle and wonderful. His guitar picking is so accomplished. He'd become an even better guitarist by this point. He was a great guitarist in the early 70s, but by the 80s, even better. Apparently, this version removes what once had a drum machine and some keyboards for a much more raw, stripped-back performance, which makes it even that much more compelling. Hearing George with the acoustic guitar and hearing his skill on the acoustic guitar with just his voice on top, that's what you want to hear. I'm here for the Beatle. I'm not here for a drum machine. I want to hear George. It's perfect. Let It Be Me ends off side 1, an Everly Brothers cover that apparently George did after seeing their reunion show in London in the early 80s, 83 more than likely. Again, a gentle, simple track, a little bit of drums here and there, a little bit of slide guitar, just a comfy version of this track because he was a huge Everly Brothers fan. To hear him pay homage to some of the people he admired is really cool. Side 2 opens up with a track that wouldn't come out until much later in the 70s, but Woman Don't You Cry For Me. This version probably dates back to the early 70s, maybe even the All Things Must Pass era. And I dig it. It's a real bluesy vocal, really exciting guitar playing too. You hear how percussive and rubbery George's fingers can be pulling off these blues licks, and someone playing that Snoopy jaw harp in the background and doing 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 that, remember that thing? It's very cool. It's a constant head bopper, great little track. Awaiting on You All is another showstopper. The production on this thing is so dry and so raw, but it's just like, it's stripped back, it's quaint, it's simple, and it's beyond captivating with how intimate it sounds. You're so used to the release version, which has all the bells and whistles. This doesn't have any bells or whistles. It's just guitar, drums, and bass. Boom, done, nothing to it. And it's so easy on the ears, and because of George's knack for melody and the chords he chose, you follow along. It doesn't matter what version of the song it is. When you have a good song, it doesn't matter if you're playing it on one instrument or 1200. A good song is a good song, and this is one of those. Behind That Locked Door, this is another one where George could have released just this version as it is, and that would have been more than okay. He's relaxed, he's invested, he's committed to an incredible performance, and once again, he knows he has something special here, and he knows his songs are good, so like that confidence plays so well in the way he carries himself on this track. But hearing George just on his own with an acoustic guitar, that's all we need. I would love it if they did like a George Harrison acoustic like they did for the John Lennon acoustic album many years ago, which is a great listen. I wish they would do that for this, or put out a second volume too. It'd be even better. And they kind of have with the bonus tracks over the years. And then you get the showstopper, All Things Must Pass. What more can you say? This is a show stealer. Ringo and Klaus back in the fold here. It's just beautiful. From the soul, it's ready for the world to hear. George, again, I think he understood the power and the importance and just how creative he was. And he knew that he wasn't being used enough in the Beatles. He had to go out and make a triple album as his first solo album. And this was a song they did with the Beatles, in '69, and it just didn't work out for one reason or the other. But lucky for him, he got to use it for his solo album, and it's an amazing track. And then the album ends with The Light That Has Lighted the World, and a wonderful ending. I've always loved the chords in this song, the way it kind of builds into this little gentle lullaby feel in the chorus. The whole song just shines. It's warm, it's yearning, and it ends too soon. It's such a short little demo, 2.5 minutes, but man, what a great little closer. Let me show you the album itself. There's nothing on this record for like information about recording information, but great picture on the label there, repeated on both sides. My biggest takeaway from this record is I wish it came with like a one sheet just to say when these recordings happened and to verify who was there. I only know it's Ringo and Klaus because I know Ringo's drumming like the back of my hand. Like I know that's Ringo's shuffle. And I know that he did a lot with Klaus in the early 70s, so it's Klaus on bass. But like, it would just be nice to know like exact dates for things. I know they have them. Let us know. The back of this thing has Dr. Warren Zanes having written a paragraph, and then Giles Martin does one as well, for information about picking the songs and how they relate to the movie and why his performances are so profound, what makes them intimate, and what makes them fascinating to listen to, and the process of which they put things together. But we can use some more information. That's the biggest takeaway from this whole record. But like I said earlier in the review, I love a lot of George's albums, but hearing him mostly acoustic, there's an intimacy with his voice that works in a perfect blend in an acoustic guitar environment where it's just the two of them together. And I really wish we had gotten more like that from George. So this is the closest thing we'll ever have to like a pretty much all acoustic, bar for a handful of songs album. So an official volume 2 would be amazing someday, because this is such an important album to own in your Beatles collection. It's just raw, direct, from the heart, and soulful. And you hear the hunger in his performances. You hear how stoked, and he knows that these songs are good. That's the biggest takeaway. So honestly, yeah, it might be my favorite George album. So yeah, I return to this one pretty often. It's a very inviting listen. And it being 10 tracks, it's not a super long listen either, but you're so invested in it the whole way through. There wasn't a bad cut on the album. Easily a 9 out of 10, maybe even a 10 out of 10 for me. I just wish there was more information about the recordings. Like, let us know any information about the recordings. A simple one sheet with the record could have been perfect. So, George Harrison Estate Volume 2 when? Let us know. My name is Giggens. Thank you so much for watching. It's been so much fun to chat about George Harrison's Early Takes Volume 1, an absolutely essential album to add to your Beatles collection. And that's it. Let me know your thoughts on this record in the comments below. We'll chat about some George. But until then, take care of yourselves and have a great day. And take care of each other and drink water. And peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. See you next time.